Oh my god, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Hi guys. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes.
I feel like whenever I say that question, people have always been like, introduce yourself. It feels like such a loaded question.
It is.
But it's also, I don't know, just like who you are, or like a few words that you feel like encompasses like you.
Well, hey guys.
Hey.
My name is Reem. I'm a friend of Cynthia's, so that's why I'm on the podcast. No, what do? I do quite a few things.
Yeah.
I always find that it's a bit hard to place. What do I do? I'm a scientist.
So cool.
Yeah.
I feel like we'll obviously talk about that more, but I feel like I remember from like a conversation of ours, like you saying something about science, but in terms of like your online profile,
you wouldn't be able to tell that.
You don't know that like at all.
Yeah.
But yes, continue.
I feel like when people come like on my Instagram, they wouldn't be able to tell that I have a PhD.
Yeah.
Which is sometimes I want that to be the case. I feel like people can judge you for either or. But yeah, so I have recently completed my PhD. I was looking at how diets cause cancer, basically, to put it simply. So that was my area of research. I'm also a model. So I've been assigned model for about 5 years. Was doing a lot of creative stuff before I ever got signed. And that's kind of how I then fell into all the other things that I do. A lot of production work, a lot of magazine editor work, photography, like freelance photography used to pay my bills when I was in university.
Oh my god.
So I just do a lot of everything. And I find it really, really hard to define what I do.
And I think like you should have to. I also have this dilemma in terms of just like being someone who has like a lot of different interests. Do you see it as like a positive, or do you ever feel at times that it like hinders you? Because I think personally it's a good thing, but sometimes I struggle in terms of like kind of feeling like should I streamline more of like the things that I do to like give more attention to that, which will then hopefully in turn like give me back more, if that makes sense. I don't know.
I completely understand what you're saying, because it can be complicated when you are many different things and they are not related. For my instance, a lot of the times scientists are seen as, put your head down and you're very like analytical and there's no creativity in it whatsoever. And then the creative side of things, unfortunately, can be typecast or stereotyped as you're not really as book smart, which is not the truth, because a lot of creatives are so smart. All creatives are so smart, actually. Let's like preface that. And so sometimes those people can't see it as two things that can exist at once. But humans aren't just one thing. Like you can't just. I think it's very hard to be one thing. We have layers to our personalities, to our interests, and it's normal and should be normalized that you can be multiple things at once. And most people are, but it's easier to digest to the public to just put yourself forward as one thing. Hi, my name is Reem and I am a scientist. Hi, my name is Reem and I'm a model. I don't think that I am just one thing. I just say, hi, my name is Reem, and then you'll find out what I do afterwards. And then people are like, whoa, that makes no sense. I'm like, well, it doesn't have to make sense to you.
And also, I guess we don't really have a lot of examples of people who are doing like multiple things that they're like passionate about, or maybe as you said, like people just don't really talk about it. But anyway, sorry, I feel like I went on a tangent. So I'd love to know about your upbringing and like earliest memories as a child.
So my upbringing, I was, hence my accent, guys, which everyone always asks about. I was born and raised in Dubai.
That is so interesting.
So I'm a Sudanese woman, North Sudan specifically, because I know some people still confuse that. And I was born and raised in Dubai, like I said. I moved to Australia later on when I was about 6 years old, and then moved back to Dubai, and I did that back and forth my whole life until I like finished high school here, and have been living here since. My upbringing was really, I loved it. I had a great childhood. My earliest memories I feel like I was always surrounded by toys, like plushy toys. I have to show you some photos later. It's always like me with toys and books. And I would always like be obsessed with sitting on the computer because my dad is a computer engineer. So I would always remember like playing on those big old, like, you know, those big computers. Oh my God, back in the day. Literally.
And then you've got like the
keyboard.
Like literally.
Or I'd always be like running around the hallways with like fluffy toys because I was obsessed with those. And yeah, that was my childhood.
I've never been to Dubai. What is it like?
It's a very interesting
Especially
place.
Like growing up there, because obviously I know a lot of people go like, you know, holidays and it has this like perception of being like very glamorous, but I also think it would be like a very different environment, like growing up there. Yeah,
it's very interesting because the time I was living in Dubai, it's not the Dubai that you know now with the skyscrapers and the glitz and the glamour. It was beautiful, don't get me wrong, but it was still developing into that. So the photos that you see of me with the landscape of Dubai in the background, it's just like there's no buildings. Yeah. You know, there are some, but it's not like the Burj Khalifa and all those like lights that you see now. So landscape-wise, it looked very different. I think it was great for me growing up there because I went to an international school where, similar to me, I was a child of expats. I grew up around people from all walks of life. You know, I have friends who, similar to me, came from other countries and then moved back later on in life. So it's great because you have connections with a variety of different people. It's really a melting pot for like a lot of backgrounds, although I don't think it's all like glitz and glamour. There's a downside to living there, I think, with that wealth, with wanting to, I guess, be perceived as something bigger than what you are, which a lot of people unfortunately do. Yeah. You can start to lose yourself and become a bit too materialistic, and it was something that I found that I struggled with, especially doing that back and forth. You know, there would be times where I would come back from Dubai and like, you know, have to like be here at school at the age of 13 and having to like switch my brain. So there was I had to adapt to the different cultures.
That's so interesting. Actually also I was 6 when I moved to Australia as well. What was that like initially in terms of, I feel like but Australia is just such a like an interesting space where I feel like culturally like we don't like obviously there is a culture, but it's not that rich. Like it's quite, I don't know.
It's very interesting because, you know, when I moved here at the age of 6, I was a fluent German speaker. I was, you know, like I was learning French in school. It's part of the requirements. Arabic is my first language.
So like overachiever.
But there it's normal, you know, in the schooling system there. Yeah. Also, in other parts of the world, it's normal to learn other languages and things like that. And then obviously I'm surrounded by all shades, all looks, like all types of people, and then coming to Australia where it's just like, you know, you're the only black kid in your class. It's very jarring, but it also taught me so much. It made me very strong. And actually, if it wasn't, my parents are to be thanked for this, like really instilling that sense of self in myself. Anytime I would have doubts or feel like I didn't fit in, they would just hammer down, be like, no, you are amazing, you know, be proud of how you look, be proud of where you came from. And it's unwavered throughout my entire life. And I am very lucky that I have always felt like that. I have, you know, people see confidence as something that is bad, or that you might, you know, think that you're better than people or whatever, but that's actually not the truth. Confidence is something like that's internal. It makes you feel content, and I have had that feeling of being content with myself my entire life. If I didn't have parents who made me feel like that, it would have been a completely different story. I would have struggled, and unfortunately that's the case with a lot of people. Even with supportive parents, you might have a bit of doubt when you don't fit in with the rest of the people around you. So yeah, it can be tricky for a lot of people, but I am glad that I experienced, you know, something a little bit better. Yeah.
Do you feel like was it only in Australia that those conversations came up in terms of like, you know, feeling out of place, or when you were in Dubai, because it was so like mixed that everyone was like from everywhere? Like, were you having conversations like that about, you know, who you are and like being able to like feel like a sense of self regardless of how, like, where others were coming from.
Yeah. Look, it's not to say that there aren't dramas that are happening over there as well, because, you know, it is an Arab nation and a lot of people from different Arabic countries immigrate there. Me being a Sudanese person, that's an Arabic African country. So, you know, I'm Black and proud of being Black and proud of being African, but also culturally and linguistically, it's an Arabic country. And that's not to say that that place isn't isolated from racism or classism. There's a lot of that going on in that country, and that is actually a really big problem that is that affects society over there. So I think, again, having an understanding from a very young age of, I guess it takes away from your innocence a little bit, I would say, you know, that you have to think these things and try not to let the bad thoughts come in and like take over. So yeah, you kind of experience it. I feel like for Black people, regardless of where you go, you're always going to have something. We can't ever rest. They don't want to let us rest. And that's the truth. Don't even get me started about it over here. Yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely, you kind of carry it with you no matter where you go.
Yeah, you've got like your own set of
Absolutely.
things. Do you have any siblings?
I do. A lot of people don't know that I have a sister very close in age with me. She's a very private person, lives a very different life to me. We are similar in a lot of ways, but also very different. And then I have a younger brother. He's much younger than me. There's like a 13-year age gap. But I am the eldest. I feel like I give big sis energy because
I feel like you give. I'm also the eldest as well.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
I do feel like you give like big sister energy.
Thank you. I take it as a compliment. Like you have to nurture the people around you, and you just large and in charge always.
Oh my god. Yeah. And what were you like in high school? I'm intrigued.
God. What was I like in high school?
So kind of like coming out of that, like, you know, being like a child and like all your toys, and then being in this like new environment, and like I feel like high school is so, like, it impacts us so much, you know, like for the rest of our lives and stuff.
Does. I was a big dork in high school, but I was proud of it, you know. I still am, like, really smart. I was really passionate about school. I cared about getting good grades because I knew the type of career I wanted for myself.
You always knew that you wanted to do science?
I always knew that I wanted to get a PhD because both my parents are academics. And I didn't know what it was when I was younger. I just knew that I wanted to get a PhD. I didn't know what that meant. But I knew that I loved learning, and I wanted to, you know, just like max out on how many degrees you could possibly get. I was like, let me just achieve the top one. And I was really passionate about it, and I loved science in school. I took all the science subjects. I loved math. I know a lot of people like think those subjects are gross, but I really enjoyed them.
Not at all. I'm impressed. I definitely was not like the science or maths person, but I tried, but it wasn't something that, like, you know, came naturally. So if anyone was to do that, I feel like I'm always so impressed.
It's hard. It was hard, and I had to dedicate a lot of time to it, but I loved the challenge, and I think that was ultimately what it was. I think that's just what I gravitated towards. I could have been equally as passionate about history and other subjects. Like, I loved economics, I loved legal studies, all those things. But I think that's just kind of, you know, you have to focus on something towards the end, and I focused on that, and I did really good. And then I guess that was my career. But in terms of my personality, I think my personality has not changed much. Really? I have always been like this version of myself. I think I've just grown into it a bit more with a bit better understanding of how the world is. There were definitely moments where I felt a little self-conscious and not sure about myself, as you do in that age. And also I think there was one other Black girl in my school, and she was mixed race as well, so I guess it's sometimes easier for them to associate themselves with, like, being closer to whiteness. I'm not saying that's what she did, but I was, you know, the darkest girl in my whole school, and then obviously that can get to you sometimes. I didn't see myself as...
In what way did it, like, get to
Well,
you?
I think, you know, I finished school in the eastern suburbs, and not to make the eastern suburbs girlies feel a certain kind of way, but they're unfortunately, they're not really exposed to people of color as much. They tend to maintain the same circle of friends. Same circle of friends from high school. They all care about tanning and going to the beach, not to stereotype again, but then they'll be like, oh my God, I just came back from Bali, I'm as black as you. And I'm just like, don't say that to me.
I
know. And that's the truth.
I mean, no, like,
but they still say that.
Say that.
And I'm like, what?
And it's like,
is it a flex?
Like, what?
So there was a lot of, I was exposed to a lot of ignorance and casual racism, but because I knew better, I tried my best to not let it get to me. And I knew that, you know, high school, while I enjoyed it and I had, you know, great friends and I still retained friendships from that time, I knew that it wasn't the peak and I knew that there was life beyond it, and I just kept waiting for that to be over, and my life really started after I finished high school.
Oh my God, I so relate to that. I feel like when I was in high school, it's like weird because I wasn't super academic, but I definitely tried, and I loved like getting involved. So in terms of like stuff like debating or like drama, like I would get involved in those ways. But whenever I was in school, I always would sit there and just be like, there's a whole other world happening outside of these walls, outside of like this building. And it wasn't that I was seeking it out, but there was just like this knowingness that like this was just the beginning and I just had to complete this like section, and that when I was like gonna leave, like I even remember like the last day of school, like sure I felt sad, but I also was like, nah,
I was so excited. I couldn't wait to leave. Like, you guys aren't ready for what I'm about to be. I knew I was like about to be a butterfly. I still feel like I'm in my cocoon because I know this phase of my life is still just the beginning. Like what's gonna happen in the next 10 years? I have no idea. And I know that life only gets better, and sometimes I have lived through some of what I have thought were the worst moments of my life. But then once you come out on the other end, you realize, oh, okay, I survived that. Things are better, and they're only going to get better. And you just have to kind of maintain that perspective, really, because otherwise you just become a bit too pessimistic and stoic and jaded and like you keep looking over your shoulder, and I don't want to live like that. I don't like to let outside noises affect me. I don't like to let outside opinions affect me. I don't care much for it. I care about what I'm doing, what the closest people to me are doing. If everybody's good, then I'm good, and then that's all that matters. And it's hard to be like that, especially when you're online, because everyone cares about what everyone else is saying, but then also you know, it's easy to not. You just have to sometimes just really, you can say, I don't care, and then act on it. And then it becomes reality. It's delusion, really. It's a sense of delusion in my sense.
I think it's so hard, like, within our industry in terms of, like, the creative space that we thrive on sharing, like, what we do. And I feel like at times when I'm like chronically online and just, I don't know, there's like a fine line in terms of like taking inspiration, and then it kind of sometimes crosses over to at times feeling like, am I doing like enough? That it's like, I feel like in other industries, like say, like, you know, if someone's a lawyer, a doctor, it's like obviously they go and they do their job and they kill it, but people around them don't exactly know what they're doing compared to like being in the creative industry. But especially now with the you know, social media is like so big, it's kind of hard sometimes to like, it's like, how do you stay in just like your lane, but then naturally you have like other like things, information that you kind of also need to like absorb to be able to be in like, you know, the like knowingness of like what's happening, you know what I mean? You know,
it's like, I also used to be,
I feel like I butchered that.
No, I get what you're saying.
How do I articulate this?
I used to chronically be online too, and I used to feel the need to share everything and have people know what I'm up to, but then I realized I don't actually owe it to anybody to do that, and I don't really want to do that as much. And in the last 14 months, I've made a very conscious effort to kind of retract.
We were just talking about this before.
Yeah, I'm trying my best
or like before we started recording.
trying my best to not be online as much. And that's not a bad thing. That doesn't mean that I don't care about it, because it's a means of income for me. You know, social media is where I get a lot of modeling jobs, I get a lot of creative opportunities, things of that nature. You know, it's great to network. But I also realize I don't owe sharing my life to anybody, because there needs to be, at least in my eyes, how I see it, a sense of anonymity and keeping private things private, because then it can affect your mental well-being a bit too much. When people know too much about you, then they might question things, and then it sends you into a spiral, like, how does this person know that this is going on in my life? Oh wait, because I shared it this one time. You forget that people retain pieces of information, and it's crazy that we all know so much about each other.
Like, we're literally saying
we
that
know,
before.
yeah, like we know so much about each other, but we actually don't know anything.
Yeah,
you only know what is shared, and what is shared is selected, and it's very, you pick and choose what
curated.
It's curated. It's not real. I mean, if I'm not sharing my worst mental breakdown with you, like, I don't need to be sharing the best moment of my life. But it's also hard when you're someone who makes a living out of sharing your life, and we are so used to I'm not even used to, we kind of expect people to, if you're going to be on Instagram, you better be telling me what you're doing. So it's like a fine line where
if you're going to, like, you know, play this role of, like, say, I don't know, influencer, model, or blah blah blah, there's kind of like this expectation of like, this is how it's done. Well, in the past, I feel.
So I guess, like, going back about me retracting socially, it's not that I don't like being online, it's just that I think with growth and age, I'm not as like, you know, I'm older now, I see things a bit more clearly, and I know that I'm only gonna, like, learn from my mistakes, and I don't feel the need to just be on there all the time. I'll go in there on there and share when I want to, which I guess there's a downside to that, where I can openly say that, you know, before, like, my DMs were full with people, hey, you want to work, let's pay you to do da da da, and then, you know, it means that I get less opportunities. But because social media is not my primary means of income, it never affected me. Whereas I guess it can be a bit more difficult for people when it's like their bread and butter, and then you have to share. But do you really have to share? It's like, I wouldn't even know what to do in that instance. And maybe this is going into a whole other subject about it being my primary means of income, because I have prioritized my professional career as well as my creative career, which is a professional career. I know that, you know, thank God that I don't have to worry if I'm not modeling all the time, or if I'm not, you know, booking creative jobs, or, you know, I'm on set producing something, or if I'm shooting, or if I'm writing a magazine feature, et cetera, et cetera. I don't have to worry about that, because I know that I have worked hard to build a professional career for myself. I didn't go out and, you know, go to university for 10 years to not be able to do something with those degrees. And so that, to me, is something that allows me to retract a little bit. It's hard for people who have chosen, you know, that as their career, because I couldn't imagine what it's like when you do feel drained and you don't want to put yourself out there anymore. You know, what happens when money stops flowing in? These are questions, like, I'm privileged enough to not have to worry about that, but it is an actual concern for a lot of people.
100%.
Yeah.
How did you, so, like, coming out of school, how did you, like, now, like, was it initially that you were like, okay, I'm gonna go to university, or like, how did the creative, like, aspect of your life also, like, flow through?
Yeah, so when I was in university, it was like yes, I made it sense. That was the goal I needed to reach. And when I got to university, honestly, in that first month, I had, like, an existential crisis. I was like, oh my God, I'm in this degree, but what am I gonna do with it?
What was your degree?
I was doing a Bachelor of Medical Science, and then I did an honors.
Slay, girl.
Thank you.
Slay.
I actually started off doing a double degree with engineering, but I realized I actually hate math, so I left that. But during university, I didn't befriend anybody that was in the Faculty of Science. All my friends were creative arts students, fashion students, photography students.
Was that on purpose?
It was all accidental. I met them all at some function, like an O-Day function, orientation day function. And through that, I fell into this creative world. This is like back to 2004 14. I don't know. Whenever I started university. Oh my God, I'm exposing my age. I'm not that old, but I feel it. And yeah, so through befriending all those creative people, you know, you have like they have their projects where they have to shoot or like create a fashion piece, and then they'd always ask their friends to help on set and things like that, and then I started assisting, and then I was like, oh my goodness, I actually really, really like this is a lot of fun. And then I realized, let me pick up a camera, and then I took a mid-sem course on photography that I could just it was like a crash course, and I was really passionate about it, you know, learned how to edit, learned how to shoot, and then I really fell in love with it. And I just started, you know, taking photos and then posting online and getting a bit more creative, doing things here and there. And then you start to build a network, you start to, you know, make a little bit of cash, start to meet the right people, start to get the attention of right people. And then way back then, they're called Converse All-Stars now, but they used to be called Converse X, and it was like a creative program. Before creative programs really even existed. Yeah. They kind of...
in school or...
This is university. Yeah, like around that time. I was still going to uni, but I was still doing my creative stuff on the side, and they just, you know, liked what I was doing. They thought I was cool, and they give you a bit of funding to create here and there, and was doing a lot of cool projects with them. And then one day they asked me to fly out to LA and do some work for Converse and Tyler the Creator. He was launching the Giano shoe, and we got to collaborate with a whole bunch of other creatives from around the world that they brought together. And I ended up not only working on that little campaign, but I ended up modeling in it back before I even thought about modeling. And then, you know, that came out, and everybody could see that, wow, look at all these like people, they're hanging out with Tyler, they're shooting for his shoe, how cool is that? And then I, you know, stayed in LA for a little bit, did my own thing, connected with people. I have family who live out there, so I was lucky enough to be able to stay for a while. Yeah. And then I came back to Australia, and everybody was like, hey. I had like...
Which is always the case.
Yeah, all these agents like were like in my DMs like... Have you thought about modeling? And I'm like, oh, and then my anxiety kicked in. I was like, oh my God, like, I was so scared, and I didn't even know how to explain to my parents that I had like all this interest in me. So then I ignored the DMs. I was like, this can't be real, this is a scam. And then a few months later, another agent DM'd me, and then I ended up signing with them, and that's how my modeling career took off. So that was about 6 years ago now. Wow. And I've been modeling since, and then through modeling I met a whole bunch of other, you know, creative people, photographers, production artists, like all these things, and then I just tapped into other things that I was passionate about. So that's, I guess, in summary, how I got from being a scientist to this. But that entire time I was still, you know, I pursued higher education, so I was in university full-time completing my PhD, but also shooting for Vogue because I could, you know. And it was I feel like you can do both if you want to.
That's so interesting. Do you like believe in destiny at all, or just in terms of like the way that, obviously I know that there would have been like moments of like uncertainty, but just like the way that you're explaining things, it feels like it just like fell into place.
I do believe in destiny. I believe in relinquishing control and understanding that the universe provides whatever it's supposed to provide for you, and what is meant to be will be. I knew that, you know, I always wanted to do more, and I was always, you know, creative as a kid and liked to draw and take photos and stuff like that. I didn't realize I could make a living out of it. I didn't realize that it could take me around the world, and I didn't realize it could provide me with all these opportunities. And I also didn't think that I could do that alongside being a scientist. And I think that there's definitely a, you know, a level of, I don't know, maybe, I guess, I don't know what the right word is, like it was meant to be, you know, you know, Converse was meant to reach out to me, and I was meant to go to LA, and my former agents were meant to DM me, and that's just what happened. I couldn't control it. I didn't ask for it, but I welcomed it, and I loved that happened to me, and it opened a lot of doors for me, and it allowed me to tap into a different side of myself that I didn't think that I ever could. And it's brought out like great things, and it's, I think it's supposed to be.
What was the dynamic like from working like behind the camera or like on set to you know, being the model? Like, I feel like it's quite different.
Yeah, it was very different.
Yeah.
I went from, you know, assisting my friends on shoots to then, you know, casually doing some like freelance work for a small brand who was like, hey, can you shoot some content for us? I'm like, yeah, I have a camera, why not? Yeah. To then being asked to do like some of the biggest productions like I've ever thought I could possibly do, you know, like being flown out to the middle of nowhere shooting on like, I shot on like a pink Salt Lake once in Adelaide. That was like so random. So it was very different because I had to learn what it meant to be a model, and also realizing that, I don't know, I think also, this might again go on a different tangent, but learning what it means to be a Black model in Australia as well was very difficult for me.
Yeah.
It was a bit traumatizing at times. I've had some not so pleasant experiences on set, as I'm sure you would also understand. But having to understand that it's actually a really hard job to have. It's just as equally as hard as being behind the scenes. Yeah, so it was definitely a learning curve. Yeah.
How, I think with my experience of, you know, being a Black model in Australia, that for me, like, things really took off because like for ages I was like trying to get into modeling. Like, I always was just like really interested in that space, but it really wasn't until like Black Lives Matter that things like really like, you know, revved up, and in one breath the people obviously kind of like, well, at least these brands are being inclusive and, you know, they're trying and things are changing, and you can kind of be like, yes, I can acknowledge that. But then in another breath I kind of feel like with us that it feels like we're, I don't know how to put it, but like we're the
token,
like the testers, like we're like kind of like paving the way. Like, I'm sure that, you know, in another couple of years, 5 years from now, that things will probably be even more like better. But it was so, especially in Australia, I think that obviously now it's been such a long time since, you know, like George Floyd and like 2020 and just that whole period, but it really was like, it really went from like one to the other, like
Absolutely.
Like going on a website and it was like quite normal to see like,
it felt like someone flipped a switch, and all of a sudden Black models mattered more than they ever had mattered before, because, and it was, a lot of it was for show, because a lot of these brands that were trying to show representation, it was very performative, because they have since either not kept up with that level of diversity, or they basically that, honestly, there's nothing else to it. I was getting booked more than I have ever been booked in my life. Like, I could have retired myself, like if I was working at that rate still, honestly, I would have just, I'm like, forget this degree, honestly, like I'll just do this. But it went like that, and then it went like that, and this is also equal to how much people cared. Oh wow, they cared a lot when a poor innocent Black man died and it was really publicized, and then all of a sudden it's old news. But you know what, injustice is still happening towards people of color and all other minorities all the time. Now, with Australia being a young nation, and, you know, meaning immigration is not like, you know, we even had the White Australia policy up until recently, and I want to say recently, like that's the 60s or something, but it's still not that far away. So it hasn't even been enough time for us to have. But you
also feel it, especially, you know, with like people's relationship to like Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, like
and it's their land, it's literally, like it's, we are guests.
And even like the whole thing of Invasion Day and Australia Day, like all of, like you still. I don't think they should be controversial. I think it shouldn't be controversial, honestly. And the fact that it is, it really shows how superior some people think that they are. Now, the issue regarding Black models or diverse models being booked all of a sudden not being booked. Now, why is it that that's the case? If there were more people of color, Black people behind the scenes in these rooms making decisions at these PR offices, at these production offices, at these magazine HQs, actually working there and being allowed into these spaces, then perhaps
you would see more representation. Representation doesn't just happen, you know, just because you literally, like, I go on set and I might be booked with 3 other black models, but then the entire BTS team is just white people.
Yeah.
How are they really going to...
It has an effect.
It has an effect.
Yeah,
because they
100%.
will never walk in my shoes. Yes, they can, you know, be allies and understand and do their best, but you do your best by also opening doors for other people and allowing these people to come into these spaces, and that's when real change happens. It happens at the top level, you know what I mean? And then it can trickle down, because then you look out for people from the top down. It's quite hard. You can't say that you're for representation if you have a black model on your magazine cover, but then I don't see any people of color who work at the magazine. So it's kind of redundant.
I think that's one of the biggest things at the moment within, like, the Australian fashion scene. Sure, it's like you might have the talent, but then it even goes to, you know, say once, like, I was on set and it was like a hair campaign and they wanted, like, my hair in, like, I think, like, Bantu knots, like, all over, and I had, like, 6 white hairstylists, like, trying
their best,
you know, and then by the, and it was literally
but it could have been resolved if they had a black hairstylist, or even a hairstylist who has been educated on afro, kinky, textured hair. Don't call yourself a hairstylist if you don't know how to do all hair. Go back and relearn, honestly. Just like how, hypothetically, let's say a doctor wouldn't go get their degree and become a doctor if they didn't learn how to, at least on the baseline, treat all conditions and be able to diagnose. You know what I mean? You need to go and actually learn your craft and be able to do it so you can cater to all people who come on set. And then we end up looking a mess on set, or I have to take, like, you know, however many hours it takes for my hair to get braided out of, like, my day to go get done before shoot, just because when I come on set I have to be treated differently. And I know people say, oh yeah, but you're a model, it's not a real job. But, like, it actually matters to be treated differently. And then, you know, you hear the whispers.
It has an effect.
Yeah, then you hear the whispers behind, so, oh, what are we going to do with her hair? Like, I'm just like, it's not that hard. Like, I can do it, you can too. You just haven't learned, you haven't bothered. You just haven't bothered to try.
How did you deal with situations like that where, you know, you felt uncomfortable, you could tell that not necessarily they just had you there to tick a box, but, like, the client wasn't really going out of their way to make you feel, like, safe? Like, how were you able to communicate that, and even with your agent as well?
No, it's happened a lot of times, and, you know, I've actually also had really amazing moments on set where they've, you know, I've had a great team and they've really cared for me and I felt taken care of. But there's also been, unfortunately, more of the bad side of things. And I always voice it, whether, you know, the first line is like, hey, you know, hypothetically, this foundation makes me look ashy. It's not my right undertone and it's too light. I need you to redo it. So I'll always say it because I've had to see photos of myself on billboards looking a mess. And I'm like, never again, never again. It's not that hard to go to Mecca and get some foundation. It's literally not that hard. Like, Rihanna created the whole line for us. Like, just get some Fenty Beauty. It's not that hard. And literally, it's the truth. So then, you know, things like that happen, or like oh my god, one time my cousin sent me a photo. She was like, your hair looks a mess. I was like, and she lives in America, so
so she knows.
Yeah, it was like an editorial, and I was in all Prada, and it's like, how do I look like so expensive in all Prada, but my hair looks so cheap? She was like, did a white person do your hair? And I was like, eh. But it was like not cute because it looked like somebody did my hair who was not trained on doing hair for editorials. It was messy. So after having a lot of bad experiences like that, where the way I look was just compromised, I just started speaking out. You know, it's first say to the, you know, makeup artist or the person, the head producer or something like that, hey, like, this isn't working for me. If it's still not working, I had to bite my tongue a lot of the times, and then I raise it with my agent. And then, you know, I just became a lot more picky and choosy with the types of jobs I was taking. And it was frustrating that I had to even ask all these questions before accepting a job. Like, what does the hairstylist look like? You know, what does their work look like? Can I see some references? Who's the makeup artist? Are they familiar with doing dark skin tones? why do I have to like do all this extra work before I can even accept a job? It's very hard. And I've worked in the UK, I've worked in America before, and I've never had this experience. You know what I mean?
Of course.
I've never had this experience there. Because diversity there is not something that you just have to say. You know, it's normal, it's accepted. You don't have to...
Yeah, it's
like, why is it so hard here? It's not that hard. Just let's just be and just...
Yeah, 100%. And I think... like the biggest thing is when I'm obviously like I understand with those like America and the UK, like, you know, it's been around for much longer, but when I'm there, I feel like I'm just seen more as like who I am, and I don't have to like think about those external things in terms of like, okay, is this person gonna like understand why like my hair can't do this, or like, you know, the right like shade, that I can just turn up as myself and I have more room to explore who I am. And
do the job. Yeah. You're less anxious. You're more able to focus on doing the job rather than, oh, do I look all right?
Yeah.
Because you shouldn't care about what you look like. You should be there to do the job.
And also in some ways, I kind of hate it sometimes when I go on set or just, I mean, like spaces, and people's first compliment to me is about like my hair. Like,
wow, your hair is so, your skin is so,
like, I feel like I'm, and it's hard to like articulate, because obviously it's like, okay, no, I get it. Like if I see someone and I go, whoa, I love how like they did your hair.
But because
like
we're different.
Yeah, and but because you're black, it's like, it's like, is that the only compliment that you can give me?
It's because they see us as different. Yeah. And once you stop seeing people as different, as like, then it's just normal. Yeah. Hey, how are you going? Oh yeah, you look nice. Rather than be like, wow, I love your Bantu knots. I love those. What are those called? Cornrows. Stop. How do you do it? How long does it take? Can I touch? Do you ever times I've had my hair yanked by like random people on set? Like, oh my god, I love it.
Like all the time.
I'm not I feel like a zoo animal sometimes, the way I've been poked and prodded. And also, I do want to say, like, this is a unique experience to me. I'm not saying that this is the case for everybody on set, but unfortunately, you hear it. It's a recurring theme. Like, this is what I'm experiencing, is what I'm speaking to. And I think it's gonna take some work, and it's gonna take some time, but it's getting better. I don't want to like sound like I'm complaining. I'm just speaking from experience. Yeah.
It's just from experience, and it's like, but also I feel like I have these conversations and like, you know, with close friends, and there's like an understanding, you know, and sometimes sometimes I can feel like, oh, do I just sound like a broken record? But then I'm like, most people don't actually, like when I do express this to say like a Caucasian friend or, you know, someone who is not my skin tone, that a lot of the times people are really shocked. So that makes
because they don't experience it.
Yeah, they don't experience it. So I'm like in my inner circle, obviously it's like we get it, like we know what's up, but the majority of like, you know, the population don't get it. And so I think it is important to be able to like, you know, share and like talk about these experiences, and hopefully, not that it's like our job to educate others, but it's also wanting some kind of change or like movement towards something, because it's like, okay, cool. Yes, now we've gotten, say, us on set, like more of a diverse range of people. However, though, if you're gonna have us on set, also have people in the background, well, not background, but like part of production, who also reflect, you know, the people that you're shooting. It's gonna make the whole experience a lot more richer and just like flow a lot better. But
it's that exact reason that I became really passionate about returning to behind the scenes, and it's the reason why I guess I'm, you know, modeling less and all that stuff. My passion now lies with when I am asked to produce something, my first instinct is to book people who I know can do everything. So if I'm booking a makeup artist, I know that the makeup artist I'm booking is not going to have an issue matching a skin tone. I know that the makeup artist can do 4C to 1A hair without dramas. And I wish a lot more people had that mentality when putting together a team. If I was coming on set and I was met with, if I was coming on set as a model and I was met with a photographer who knew the right lighting for my skin tone, because that's also another issue. The makeup artist wasn't gonna have dramas matching me. The hair artist wasn't gonna have issues, doing my hair. The stylist knew how to fit my body type, because also, mind you, Black women have a different build a lot of the time.
Yes.
If I knew that was the case, I would and just have the time of my life. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And so that's why I've become really, really passionate about the work that I do behind the scenes. When it comes to that, I really feel like I care the most now I care less about modeling and more about advocating for change. And because I have, had that experience, I can speak to it and really guide teams in ways that they should be curating the team, basically. And unfortunately, a lot of the times, these big jobs and these big opportunities don't care to look for diverse people of color who could work behind the scenes, who are capable, more than capable actually, of producing something incredible and catering to all types of people. There's a lot of I don't even know if nepotism is the same word, but they the great jobs keep recycling between the same people.
Yeah, I think that's also one of the hardest things within the Sydney space, that it's really hard to just
break out of that.
To just get your foot in the door, even compared to, I haven't worked as much overseas, but I've had friends, working as stylists and different things, and it feels like people a lot more open and generous with just information and giving people a chance,
It's because, and everyone knows that we have tall poppy syndrome here. I don't know why. Why don't you want to see other people win? I do. Your success doesn't hinder mine, because there's more than enough space. And when more people are winning, it creates more opportunity. It's like a feedback loop. You want to see other people win. You want to see other people have the opportunity to do great things, because, then they provide space for other people to have chances. And then people start to look to Australia and Sydney as a, as a place where that can happen. But because everything is just so refined and tight, and they want to stay within these imaginary margins.
That makes me so excited though, you talking about, doing more behind the scenes, because also with your experience of being in front and being in the back, I feel you have so much to offer. And a lot of the times, even I think sometimes it's hard even for people working behind the scenes to be able to empathize or relate to models, you know what I mean? Obviously I think usually say hairstylists and makeup artists, I kind of have more of an intimate relationship with them, because it's
you sit and you talk,
and I'm able to be oh yeah, this happened, or oh yeah, I'm feeling. But then other people, that sometimes it's you're just this figure, whereas you would have so much more of an understanding. But I'd love to talk about your research and you getting a PhD. Congrats. It's insane. What made you kind of so obviously you finished your bachelor degree.
So instead of doing a master's, I went straight into an honors by research, which is equivalent to that. And then when I was looking for what to do my honors in, I knew that I was passionate about, I majored in pathology, so the study of diseases, and I also did a minor in anatomy and histology, as well as infectious diseases. So I knew I wanted something that kind of combined all of those. And
what drew you to that?
I just loved being above a microscope and I love being above a microscope and looking at samples. They look so beautiful. It's like photography. It is photography. It is it's the highest quality lens you can ever get, honestly. Some of the microscopes I was exposed to, the Leicas and the Olympuses, which also produce camera lenses, I feel that's why I was passionate about histology. I just really loved looking at samples underneath the microscope and being able to see things on a microscopic level, you could see a nucleus of a cell. And then with electron microscopes, you can see inside of a nucleus. Like, it's so cool. And yeah, I just was looking for a project that combined everything, and I found the project which I gravitated towards, which was looking at how Western style diets affect your microbiome to cause cancer. And I did that for about a year, and then I got a summer research project scholarship to continue on researching over the summer. So it was great. I was getting paid to do that. And then I was like, what's my next step? Well, let me just see if I can get this scholarship. I applied for a scholarship that basically pays you a salary to do your PhD. So if I got it, I was like, all right, I'll do my PhD, because it's really hard to do a degree, because that degree is a full-time degree. It's almost impossible to work.
A full-time job, basically.
So I got that scholarship, and I was like, cool, great. I'm going to get paid to go to uni, and my student fees are covered.
Stop.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad I applied for it. And if anybody here is curious about it, it's called the RTP scholarship, and I really advise you guys to get it. It's tax-free. You get paid to go to uni. You get your student fees covered, and then you're also able to work on top of it. And I wish a lot more people knew about this scholarship.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, feel free to message me. I love talking about it because it provides a lot of opportunities for people.
Yeah.
And so I did my PhD, and that was a bit more of a refined project. So my thesis title is, what is my thesis title? The effect of varying macronutrient distribution in the effects of diet microbiome interactions in developing colon cancer, something like that. I don't remember the exact term. But basically, I look at how Western style diets change your microbiome to produce metabolites that are toxic that can then induce cancer. And I did that research for 4 years. I got to travel the world, going to conferences. The last place I went to was Germany, which was really cool. Got to present my research, which was great. You write papers, and you know, it was amazing. And during the time, I was teaching at the university as well. So it was super, super cool to be able to give back to students as well. And I loved it. I still do love it.
Yeah, that's so cool. I didn't know, like, I knew that you did science, but I didn't know about this whole other world.
I was like, yeah, I want the title doctor ahead of my name, because it's like, it's exciting.
Oh my god,
but I love it. It's
yeah. Did you find it like isolating doing a PhD? Like, how much, I don't know, like, how much interaction do you have with like other people, apart from obviously when you're doing like interviews and whatnot, but it's heavily like led by you?
It is. Yeah, a PhD is self-driven. Yes, you do have a supervisor who, guides you, but it is one of the hardest things you can ever do. And I wanted to quit so many times. And I was also going through some of the most difficult times in my personal life during that time too. But I'm so glad that I persevered and I did it. It taught me so much about working independently, being analytical, being able to solve problems. It's not just about like what I was researching. It teaches you skills beyond that. You know what I mean? Because I could have equally done my PhD in something else and come out with the same skills. A lot of it is just you, and you have to learn to be okay with being by yourself, but it is also very collaborative, especially in the medical field. A lot of the work that I did, I relied heavily on the people around me, my colleagues and the other people who were based in my lab, because we would do large scale animal studies, and then you're dealing with like hundreds of mice, and then you have a cull day where you're supposed to harvest organs and things like that. I know it's a bit intense. I know it's a bit intense. People feel funny about animal work, but I personally believe that it's essential for furthering understanding.
I was just thinking like the idea of mice, and I was
my goodness, like these mice had cancer, which was the craziest part. So then you can't just do a huge harvest day by yourself. You need people to help you. There are skills and things that I don't know how to do. Okay, who do I know that there's somebody I can go talk to and learn from. So it is very collaborative, but a lot of the time, yes, you are by yourself. And
how do you feel about being by yourself?
God, I love being by myself. I actually have no issues with it. And again, it's because I had that strong sense of self as a child. I like my alone time. I like being by myself, but I equally like being around people and doing things with people. You just have to learn to be okay being by yourself. But the thing is, it wasn't that I was being by myself because I had no choice. I chose to because I knew that that's kind of like I had to do this degree. But when I clocked off at the end of the day, I knew that I was going home to hang out with friends and family and loved ones. It was a job. It really was just a job.
100%. What does it mean to you to have like a strong sense of self?
That's a bit of a hard question, really. I think it means...
Or your personal relationship with that, because I feel like that's something that's come up a lot in this conversation, which I love.
Yeah. I definitely have had moments where I've doubted myself and questioned what am I doing, and sometimes, unfortunately, allowed outside voices and opinions to affect the way I see myself. But realizing that I am stronger when I don't do that. The only validation that I really need is from myself. But it's not easy getting there. It's practice. It really is practice. It's a lot of just self-reassurance, a lot of internal work, sometimes therapy, which I've been to, which you have therapy. Honestly, it's got me through some of the...
Actually, this is something interesting. I don't know like your family background, but like I'm Liberian and like growing up here, that I think for say like my parents and like older generation, that they didn't really grow up like having, therapy. And so sometimes when I've even like said to my aunt like, oh yeah, I'm like going to therapy, that it's still not like...
There's a stigma behind it.
Yeah, and especially, I don't know, being like African and black, and like you think about our people, like we're so resilient. They have gone through like
everything,
like so much. And so even I think when you look at like black women, there's kind of like this expectation or image that's like put onto you of just being strong, and it's not to say that going to therapy means that you're not strong, but I just think when people think of like people who are people who are resilient, it's like of course you're gonna be. And I think it takes a lot to, I guess, just change the conversation, and give us more, I don't know, room to like be vulnerable.
Definitely growing up, that was something that if I ever said to my parents, oh yeah, I want to go to therapy, they'd be like, why, what's wrong with you, what did we do wrong? They would take it personally. And unfortunately that is the case with a lot of immigrant parents, African parents. I'm only speaking from my perspective, but their mindsets have shifted in more recent years, which is really amazing. Also, as me and my siblings get older, being raised differently to how they're raised, and also realizing that therapy can be beneficial not just for us but for them, they have become a bit more receptive to it, which is amazing. And I wish there wasn't the stigma around it, because I think everybody would benefit from it. I wish it was more accessible to a lot of people. That's the biggest thing. Biggest thing. Can't even say that. Like, literally.
She's expensive.
Yeah, first of all, not only is therapy expensive, but it takes a long time to find the right therapist.
Even just organize in general.
Gosh, it's hard to make it work with work. It's hard to make it work with family. It's a big expense, and I'm fortunate that I can do it, but a lot of people can't. And maybe this is a political question. What could the government be doing to make it more accessible? Maybe we need to have more programs where, therapy is free, things of that nature. I'm not sure, but I really wish that my community, I'm Sudanese, I wish my community, the black community, the immigrant community, had a better view of what therapy is. It doesn't mean, a lot of parents think that it means that the child thinks that they have made a mistake, the parents have made a mistake, but really, it's not a personal attack. It's just that we all have issues, and life is hard, and sometimes we need guidance and help and professionals, and we need a professional who has studied on the skills that we need to navigate these issues. It's like if you break a leg, are you just gonna limp on it, or are you gonna go to a doctor? Your brain is the same thing.
Oh my god, 100%. No, that's such a good analogy. And going back to your studies, so what was it like finishing it?
So I finished it in September. I submitted my thesis in September. So it's still quite a process to actually I'm done. I'm done with it. It's been almost a year, but it's still quite a process for the confirmation to happen. But it was the biggest sense of relief. I could not tell you, writing that thesis was single-handedly the hardest thing I have ever done. And anybody who's ever done a PhD will tell you that it's like you've given birth after being in labor for 4 years is how it feels.
For me, it's just But obviously, you know, we talk about like, you know, self-motivation and even being in the creative space. There's a lot of that of you're the one who has to like put yourself out there and like organize. But
it wasn't easy because, you know, I knew I wanted to do my PhD, but a lot of the times, a lot of people were whispering in my ear, telling me, just leave it, you don't need it, you're fine, like, you know, just model full time. I had a lot of people who would be upset that I would prioritize my PhD than going to a casting or going to a job. But
that's also really...
Like, it's the truth.
It's a really big thing, and I think sometimes when you're like in the thick of it in terms of like modeling in the creative space, that there's this expectation of like that is the be all and end all, and sometimes it can be, obviously it's like different for you because obviously you've always like been studying and you've always had that interest, but sometimes I think we can get into this mindset of not looking outside the bubble of like the other possibilities, and sometimes you can also, well, speaking of my experience, I can feel this like guilt if I'm like, wait, there's something else that I'm also quite interested in that is going to require me to take a step back potentially from this. And then I think there's that fear of like, oh, if I take a step back, can I
get back in it?
Yeah. Sorry.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
Like,
it's the truth.
Yeah. So it takes a lot of courage to just like listen to your intuition and like sit in that like uncertainty and have.
I could have listened to those people though.
Yeah.
But discipline is something like I'm actively working at being better at, because there have been so many, like I said at the beginning, I wanted to quit my PhD so many times because I knew that there was easier options out there. But I knew that once I had finished it, I had something that nobody could ever question me on. I had already accomplished that, and I will have it for the rest of my life. I will have the title for the rest of my life. And then I have the rest of my life to do everything else. And it's not like I was not doing things that I wanted to at that time. It just took a lot of balancing, a lot of prioritizing to do it. And it's okay to say no to some things. I used to feel really guilty about saying no to jobs, about no to opportunities, no to a party. But I knew that there's always the next one. There's always something that's going to come. And I knew that if I didn't lock in right now and finish it, because I had a set time frame to do it. Mind you, I had a scholarship. I had expectations. I knew that I had to prioritize that. And I always disclosed it to everybody. That's why I would, you know, when people say, hey, so what do you do? Oh, I'm doing my PhD. Oh, but I saw you on set. Well, yeah, I also model. But like, that's my priority right now. Yeah.
I love that, the power in saying no.
It's hard.
I feel like at really the moment I'm trying to claim my no, because I've definitely at times can veer on being like a people pleaser, you know, and it takes...
You don't want to be a people pleaser, because
I know.
it hurts you at the end of the day.
So much, but it's only really been in the last... I'd say 3 years that I've even had that thought or that realization of being like, wait, there is power in saying no and like creating whatever boundaries, you know? So what do you think is ahead for you in the future, or what do you having all these like different interests, from like your photography to working in producing to modeling to having finished, you know, PhD, like that's pretty insane.
In terms of what I'm going to do with the PhD, I've done it now. I still do work in the medical field, but I don't think I want to be in academia for a while, because it's a very difficult space to be in. It's very rigid and it requires a lot more commitment than I want to give at this point in my life.
Yeah.
I know that it'll always be there for me, thankfully. I just want to keep doing whatever it is that I have been doing this entire time, which is everything. I want to do everything. That's it. Like, it's the simplest answer. I want to do everything that makes me happy. And that's it.
That's so cool.
It's so simple.
Yeah. And I feel like even just having conversations like this, because like I was saying before, we saw each other at this like party and we hadn't seen each other in a while, but I feel like I obviously like knew that you did like all these like different things, but I didn't actually know like in terms of like the full picture, and it kind of gives other people like an example to be like, wait, like Reem is able to study and then also have like creative pursuit, and the fact that as humans we should be encouraged to be more like multifaceted and not tie down to one thing. And also you're so young that it's like
that's the thing, like life is still ahead of me. If I've been able to do all this, God only knows what I'll be able to do in the next chapter of my life. And I know that no matter what it is that I'm doing, my new priority now is that if I ever have the opportunity and I'm lucky enough to open a door for somebody else, that is my priority, because I wouldn't have been able to do anything if it wasn't for the people who opened those doors for me. And I think we need more of that. And I wish a lot more people were like that. It's hard because there's very limited opportunities and everybody wants to eat, but I don't mind sharing my plate.
100%. Yeah. What did your parents think of you, like, getting into the creative, like, space?
I think for them, they're very, like, old-fashioned academics. They're very much like, well, Reem did her PhD. She's doing her own thing now. Like, I don't think they register what it is that I'm doing. They know that I'm passionate about creative stuff. They know that I model the nitty-gritty of like, oh yeah, Reem did this one like magazine thing. I don't think they know. Which is like,
it's kind of nice.
It is kind of nice because they used to be in my business too much, and now it's like, oh yeah, she's doing blah blah blah. Or like if I have something that I'm really proud of, I send it in the group chat, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing, wow. Which is so great because it's taken a lot of work to get to that, a lot of understanding, and the family's ups and downs, but ultimately, they wanted to ensure that their sacrifices and the efforts they put into me is for something. And I dedicated my thesis to my parents. That's like the first page of it, because ultimately I wouldn't have been able to do anything if it wasn't for them, and they were the ultimate guiding light and inspiration. So yeah, I think I know that they're proud of me, which is, I'm very lucky. Yeah.
No, 100%. And I 100% like resonate with you. Obviously I haven't done like a thesis, but just you even saying you dedicated that to them, because especially me, like growing up here, I grew up like my aunt, my mum lives in the States, like still speak to her like every day and see her all the time. But I think there's a different relationship that you have with your parents, and a different way that you kind of like see them as like, being someone who's like from an immigrant family, that for me, that I'm like, my success is not just mine, it's also theirs, and it's like this weird unspoken thing that it feels like you're carrying their light, their effort, and in some ways it feels not like the stakes are higher, but I think that growing up I always was very like,
I have to make them proud.
Yeah.
It's because you love them, and I think when you think that, it's you are very conscious and aware of everything your family has done for you. And of course, like, you want to make them proud. Who doesn't?
100%. Okay, I love ending the podcast asking the same set of questions to everyone. But if you had a dinner party and you have like 2 guests, living or dead, who would they be?
Oh my God.
You can also take your time as well.
Who do I want at my dinner party? I want Dave Chappelle, because he's so funny.
Wow.
I want to laugh, right?
Yeah.
And then, who's the other guest that I want? Who do I think is... I probably just want... I would want Dave Chappelle and Wanda Sykes. They're both comedians. I actually love comedy. That's like one of my...
I don't know who the second one is.
Oh my God, Wanda Sykes is hilarious. She's like she's a comedian as well. I want those 2 comedians at my dinner party because I want to laugh at the dinner table the entire time.
Oh my God. Yeah. And I feel like as well, comedians are so smart.
They are, like, comedy is equivalent to intelligence.
Yeah.
You have to be witty and quick with it.
Honestly. Okay.
It's a lot of social commentary as well.
If you had one day to live, what would be like your last meal?
God. I love to eat. I love to eat. My last meal would either be... I love Japanese food. So if I had the time to go to Japan and have just like a platter of sashimi, I would be a happy girl. Honestly, I always say if I was on death row, I would want to eat like sushi right before they get me.
Oh my god.
That's a bit dramatic, but sushi.
Oh my god, 100%. What's one piece of advice that has like affected you, or something that you like always refer back to that you've been given? I say that like
let me have a think. You know, my mom always says there's no point if you're not happy with yourself, so just do what you can to make yourself happy. And it's the truth.
Damn, it's really powerful.
Yeah.
Wow. And what's one message you would like to leave our listeners with?
I think I would like to say that if I can, let me phrase this a bit better.
Take your time.
I would like to say that it's so easy to allow outside noise and people's perceptions and views on yourself to affect you. Try not to do that. It's quite hard. It takes a lot of, strength and courage, but just drown out the noise. And when you drown out the noise, you literally become unstoppable. And just center yourself and focus on you and what it is you want to achieve and what you want to do. And understand that you are not limited by anything.
Oh my god, I love that. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I just learned so much about you
too.
Do you feel that you would obviously like we've already spoken in this episode that you don't really have to share anything that you don't want to, but would you share more in terms of your PhD or your science space?
I would. I used to a lot. I used to post a lot of stories about me being in the lab, and anytime I published something, I would put it up with a link and stuff. I'm always down to share. I really am. I just need to get a bit better about being back online. My hiatus is it's like a muscle I need to stretch again.
Even this year, I feel like I was getting so in my head about just being online and being perceived, which in a way I'm it's not I'm this
valid,
huge famous person, but I don't know, it does take something.
It does.
It's kind of vulnerable. I don't know.
Who knows? Watch this space.
Watch this space.
Watch this space.
See you soon. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks.